name's Madison. Welcome or welcome back. Today I wanted to share with you guys 10 pieces of advice and/or lessons that I have learned in our first 2 years of marriage. It is quickly approaching. We will have our 2-year anniversary next week. And I honestly can't believe that I'm saying that to you guys because it has absolutely just flown by. But I do want to say, I know that 2 years is really just a tiny little blip in a marriage, but I think that those first 2 years that there are so much adjustments, things to be learned, learning your partner and/or just learning how to be a better wife, husband, and so forth. So I hope you guys enjoy what I had to say, and/or if you have any tips or pieces of advice of your own, please leave them down in the comments. I want this to be a community affair. And truly, I know that there are people that have so much more wise words of advice than I do, especially as a almost 25-year-old that's only been married for 2 years. So please, for everyone, drop some comments down below. But let's get started. So the first big piece of advice that I've learned is to just be the person that you want to be married to, because inspiration will always work so much better than criticism ever will. No husband, no wife wants to get nagged over and over and over again as to how they can be better, how they can show up better, what you want in your marriage, so on and so forth. So therefore, I think you need to show up in a way that you want them to show up too, such as if you want to have a relationship in where your husband, your wife, your partner are health focused, for example. That's something in our marriage that we are kind of currently working on. Being that my job as a dietitian is very much health forward, of course, but I want my husband to have a long, healthy life. And instead of me constantly nagging him because I've tried that, it's not going to work. It's better for me to just live a healthy life and him follow in my footsteps, such as if I go and work out after we get home from work, he's that much more likely to go throw on He's that much more likely to go throw on workout clothes of his own and come and work out with me. Another big piece of advice is just to appreciate all of the stages of your marriage. There are going to be so many different phases. I know for us personally, we've had quite a few in just the first 2 years alone. I mean, literally the first week of marriage, we came back from our honeymoon because the honeymoon had been canceled, to find out that my husband's hours at work had been drastically cut to the point where it was a full-time job and it's barely part-time. And so there was a huge adjustment where he's looking for more work. I took on extra contract jobs because that's easy for me to find. And so I was working 60, 80-hour weeks. And that's just a huge strain and adjustment on a marriage, especially a new marriage at that. But it's just something you're going to have to work through. And I'm not saying you're going to have that same experience, but within these 2 years, we have had job losses, job changes, bought a house, sold a house, moved states. And within those 2 years, those have all been very different stages of our marriage. And so appreciate every stage that you're in. Honestly, I didn't think I would miss how our relationship was and our dynamic in our first home, but there are just some very sweet moments that I will forever cherish in that house that we will never get back. And if I didn't take the time to appreciate them when they were happening, they very well just would have passed me by and I would have never recognized that. So just appreciate every stage for what it is. Okay, I think this next one is pretty huge and maybe ever so slightly controversial, but honestly, in my opinion, a marriage is never supposed to be just 50-50. Ideally, at its best, it's a person giving 100% and 100% or 120 and 120, because you are never meant to complete another person, and/or your spouse is not supposed to complete you. You should be two people that very much complement each other to work through life together for the betterment of each other, life, and so on and so forth. And so with that being said, there are going to be times in your marriage, especially in ours already, where maybe your spouse only has 60% to give, and therefore you need to step up during that time and put in 140% because they're going through a hard time and/or they can't contribute as much as they would ideally want to. That's what we're going through currently, where my husband is going through his master's, and I am so incredibly proud of him for that. But with that being said, he's very, very busy working a full-time job, doing his master's program. He's on scholarship too, so there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. So that means I have to step up so much around the house, around our relationship, planning date nights, taking care of the lawn, things that I don't normally do as far as that goes. But you just have to step up in ways to support each other and support your marriage, because it's not just about them. By you stepping up, you are taking care of each other and your marriage as a whole for the betterment for forever. This is a tip and/or lesson that my husband came up with and wanted me to include, and I agree with it as well. And it's just that small acts of kindness or love really make a world of difference. Whether that be buying their favorite coffee or flowers, getting the groceries, folding laundry, whatever it is that's your love language, showing up for your partner in their love language will make a world of difference. For example, he really despises doing the laundry, and so if I'm just having a hard time getting around to folding it with everything that we have going on, if he just comes and folds the laundry with me or even for me, that is a huge relief off of me, and it just shows so much love to me, at least. I know everyone may not think that your spouse doing laundry is an act of love. I get it, trust me, I do. But it just means the world to me. And so whatever that is for you and your partner, you should show up for them in that way. It will always be wise to put your pride aside in your marriage, especially if you're in a disagreement. My husband always says that he just can never win an argument, or she's always right, or whatever. And I don't want him to say that or feel that way in a sense that like, oh, I'm right, and I'm going to shove it in his face that I'm right, because that just adds a whole nother level of hurt to the conversation or disagreement that's going on. And so don't be boastful about an argument. Don't be prideful. Put yourself aside and just do the work and be considerate of your spouse. This one is super, super simple, and that is just to say I love you and kiss goodnight. Because if you're doing this at night and in the morning, you're beginning and ending your day with an act of love and just some way to strengthen your marriage. And so with that, just take the 5 seconds and kiss them. You will never regret it. I think this tip applies for all of life, quite frankly, but it's just to not sweat the little things and or pick your arguments, because say your partner likes to take his socks off after the workday and just leave them on the ground by the bed. That's truly not worth the argument. It really isn't. Just pick it up and move on. And it kind of goes the same if you do have kids. I can't say anything for myself, but just thinking about the fact that say if your kids do that as well, or say maybe they can't put their towel on a hook or whatever it is. If they're gone one day and or your kids have since left the house or have left that stage of life, you're going to miss the days when you're picking up little kids' toys spread around the house, or folding little baby socks, taking care of your husband. That's something that I've truly learned working in healthcare, and especially in long-term care, are the really mundane things that you will come to miss. I cannot tell you how many times I've spoken with a widow in a nursing home that says they just miss folding their husband's laundry and just smelling them on it. And that's such a simple part of life that we will often overlook. But it's at the end of your life, when you're thinking about all the things that you miss and just little things here and there, it will make a big difference if you just go about it with an act of love, kindness, and appreciating all the things for what they are. Alright, if you're friends or family, just shut your ears off, skip to the next one, whatever. But I'm not very much of a physical person for the most part. Physical touch is not my love language as much as my husband would probably love it to be. But be physical with your partner, whether it be something as simple as just holding hands when you're walking somewhere, cuddling at night, having a hug when you get in from work. Whatever it may be, just little things like that make a world of difference. And obviously, I'm not gonna lie, the more intimate things aren't gonna hurt your relationship either. But I do think it's the little acts of intimacy that aren't necessarily in a sexual way that just compound to add so much love into a relationship. I can't tell you just how much hugging my husband when he gets home from work makes me feel so loved and so safe, and I'm sure it does for him as well. and or just when you get to kiss them good morning and good night, I think it just adds so much to your relationship. Communication is everything in a relationship, but I do think that there are some times where it's better to just pray on it, think on it, than confront your partner about it. There are just things that I think with time will work themselves out, and or it's not your job to have that conversation immediately. Let your spouse work through it themselves before you try to work through it for them. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and this last one is so incredibly important in my opinion, and that is to just continue to date your spouse. This should not have ended the second they put a ring on it and you put a ring on them. Continuing to date each other is a way to continue to build your relationship, spend quality time with each other. Better yet, if you are dating each other or going out on a date, leave these at home if you can, shut them off, whatever it may be. Spend quality and uninterrupted time with each other, because that is going to add so much value into your relationship. And or if you continue to date each other, whether that just be something simple as going for a walk together, I think so much communication happens at that point where you'll figure out what's on their heart at that time. You maybe can talk about what new dreams, goals, or aspirations they have. People are continually growing, changing, their desires are changing, and I think that your relationship's going to always continue to change as well. A lot of things that I've learned, I've actually been learning from some of the people and residents and patients that I've had over the years. And it's just that oftentimes you'll probably date and be married to at least 20 different people over the phases of your marriage. The person that you get married to is not the person that you are gonna put in the grave, as morbid as that sounds. And I think there's beauty in each of the different phases of a person. And I know that, for example, we don't have children yet, but I know that one day my husband will be an excellent father, and I look forward to seeing him in that role. But the day that he becomes a father, he's probably not going to be the same person in most regards as he was before. Obviously it won't be a complete 180, but the person that he was pre-fatherhood and post-fatherhood is going to be completely different. And I think that with all the phases of your life and marriage, people are going to continue to grow, and there's so much beauty in watching that and getting to be by someone's side as you go through that. Those are the 10 pieces of advice and or lessons that I have learned in our first 2 years of marriage. Again, it still feels a little bit surreal to be saying that. And if you're watching this, Sam, I love you and happy 2 years. But for all the rest of you guys watching, if you have any tips, pieces of advice, lessons that you've learned, please leave them down in the comments below. I want this to be something that we can share with our community here. Maybe small right now, but I think everyone can benefit from this, whether they are married or not, and or want to be married at some point. So please share any piece of advice down below. I'm sure we will all appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.